Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be reviewing the Aracelly Estribi Natural Processed Panamanian Geisha from Manhattan Coffee Roasters. And there's the bag right there. Hopefully I said that as close to correct as possible. It's a Panamanian coffee, should be said in Spanish, and hopefully my Spanish isn't too bad. Nonetheless, Manhattan, of course, based out of Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and this is the first of two higher-end coffees from Manhattan's world-class offerings that we're going to be doing reviews on this week. The other which being the Luna Bermudez. So we'll probably discuss that coffee ever so slightly in this video, as we were drinking these two coffees side by side for pretty much 3 weeks. Now the story behind this coffee specifically is Manhattan is co-founded, co-owned by two people, Esther and Ben. And Esther gave this the highest score she's ever given any coffee. She gave it a 96. So between that, the fact that it's a Panamanian Geisha, and it's done by Manhattan, one of our favorite coffee roasters in the entire world, the expectations for this coffee were through the roof. This right here is day 27 of this coffee. All right, and we do have a recipe for Manhattan. It's a 16:1 water to coffee ratio at 208 degrees Fahrenheit. Liked it best through the Chemex, and it's on the lighter side of coffee, so it's a light European for the roast profile. With that out of the way, let's start discussing the coffee itself. And I do have a story for day 5, as given that we ordered this coffee with the Luna Bermudez, we tried them side by side the first day, flipped a coin which one we were going to try first, the Luna one. So this was our impression, having tried it directly after trying the Luna Bermudez. And first impression, unique from the very first sip. Honestly sat there and said, what did I just drink? Super pink cup of coffee right off the bat, but basically all of the fruit flavors. You're kind of tasting all of the fruit flavors in the finish of this cup. And that's going to be the theme of this video. Perhaps the best thing I can link or describe this as is, funny enough, the white mystery flavor from Airheads. If you've ever had the Airheads white flavor, in theory it's supposed to be all of the fruit flavors, and that's the mystery behind it. That's kind of the way that this coffee tasted, and that's the best way I can describe it. I wish I would have put that note for more days, as in hindsight it actually makes a lot of sense that that's what I got. But other things it reminded me of, as it had cooled down, it reminded me of the Goya papaya juice that I had, I think maybe 20 years ago. It was just bringing back this memory over and over, and even though it's something I haven't had a lot in my life, it just kept coming back to me. Pretty positive first impression. For whatever it's worth, I liked it more on the first day than I liked the Luna Bermudez. Day 8, indescribable cup of coffee. It is really, really hard to pinpoint exactly what fruit flavor you're getting from this cup of coffee, because you're kind of getting all of the fruit flavors from this cup. And while at times it can be described as a super fruit sweet cup of coffee, there are other times where it can be described as a super floral sweet cup of coffee. So it just depends on the time, the temperature, everything when you're drinking this cup. Day 10, and one of the best compliments I have to pay to this cup of coffee is that it stops at the point before it gets too overbearing. I mentioned this a lot with a lot of the anaerobic alcoholic coffees that I've had recently. They are too much, they're too overbearing, they're too over the top, and that makes them very undesirable cups of coffee. This one definitely stops. It's a wild and intense cup of coffee, but it gets to that point where it doesn't become overbearing. It stops right there, and that makes it both fun in the sense that it's wild, but also not too much. Day 12, which was the standout day for this cup of coffee, my favorite day for this cup of coffee, and there was a great papaya juice balance in this coffee, but the best part of it was I got my favorite flavor note in all of coffee, which is that Fruity Pebbles flavor note that is pretty common in washed Panamanian Geishas. So this is the only day I experienced that, but anytime I get it, it's a really, really good day. And the flavor note they have listed on here is Tutti Frutti, which in theory is a generic overall fruit flavor, as I think it kind of describes all of the fruit flavors that you're getting, and given that you are getting all of the fruit flavors, it just makes a lot of sense. But on this day, that fruit flavor was probably those Fruity Pebbles for me. Day 14 can describe this coffee as a little inconsistent, and that's just because there are times where certain fruit flavors are a little more intense than other fruit flavors. And even if they are nondescript, you can just tell, okay, this is a little bit more intense in this sense, and this might be in this sense. And I know that that's broad and generic, but it really was hard to pinpoint exactly what it was. It radiates everything from strong, bright fruits to deep florals and everything in between. Day 16, coffee was slightly more subdued on this day, but best description I had was these prickly pear gummy bears that I had from Arizona quite a few years ago. They have the pink rose flavor note on here, and they're pretty similar flavors, so that one would make a lot of sense. And then day 18, which was the final note I took. Coffee is basically a hodgepodge of flavors on a daily basis. While it starts off as a lively acidic cup, it cools down into a more diverse range of tropical and other fruit flavors, and it's much more enjoyable as it cools down, in my experience. All right, let's go ahead and put up the tasting wheel so you can see what I was getting. All right, and of course I'm not going to be happy with the tasting wheel because I don't know if I necessarily did a great job with this tasting wheel. This was a complex and tricky cup of coffee, so yeah, take it with a grain of salt, but the thing most worth noting is this is the first cup of coffee that has ever received a level 5 in 4 different categories, and the first of which being the finish, and I'll talk about that one first, as this is one of those cups of coffee that you're tasting for probably 20 to 30 minutes after you've finished drinking it. The sweetness, yeah, it's definitely warranting of that level 5 sweetness. It's a really, really sweet cup of coffee. Florals, again, at level 5, and I told you there are times where the florals are really dominant in this cup and really, really enjoyable, so that's definitely warranted as well. And then, of course, the fruit one that comes up, the citrus fruit. I think papaya is probably most closely in line with the citrus fruits, and even if it's not, I think the citrus fruit descriptor overall was probably the closest I can say for the way that this fruit flavor was. Stone fruit could be higher on other days, same with the berry fruit, but I think for the most part I just kind of like putting the citrus fruit as the highest among those 3 fruit categories. Other things worth noting, body level 2, probably about a 2.5, but it could have even been a 3, probably a 3 on this day, but yeah, 2's fine. Acidity level 4, probably a 3 on this day, but for the most part during the time I was drinking this coffee, level 4 is a pretty accurate representation, not too much else in this tasting wheel. Definitely nothing else worth noting anyway. All right, overall thoughts and impressions of this coffee. So pretty positive, definitely enjoyed this cup of coffee. I did enjoy the Lady Bermudas more, as I'm sure that's probably going to be the first question that a lot of people ask. And I'll probably describe how this coffee compares to the Lunar Bermudas when I do the Lunar Bermudas review as well. But overall, it was a pretty enjoyable cup of coffee. It's really, really complex. I don't think I did a great job of doing this coffee justice, as if I'm being completely honest, I don't think I painted a very good picture of the way this coffee actually was, because this coffee was just a really hard one to describe. Probably the hardest review I've ever done on this channel, and there are like 200 reviews or so. Just really, really tricky cup of coffee. Type of person I would suggest this coffee to is somebody that does like the wide range of fruit flavors. This has so much, all of them. It also has a wide range, I wouldn't say wide range of florals, but some really distinct florals as well. So obviously I'm a big fruit and florals sort of person, and having all of that in this cup of coffee made it really, really enjoyable for me. And you're not going to be drinking 2 similar cups of coffee on 2 different days, so just keep that in mind, as sometimes I think this coffee was one of the favorite cups of coffee I've had this entire year, and other days I thought it was just pretty good, not necessarily as much as I had enjoyed it on other days. That's my overall thoughts on this coffee, but yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions of it as well if you might have had the opportunity to try it. If you're enjoying the content, give this video a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. But this right here has been a review of the Aracelly Estribi natural processed Panamanian Geisha from Manhattan Coffee Roasters. Thank you for watching.